गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so we completed till the sloka, we chanted sloka 8. Now we are about to start for the meanings of the 8th sloka. The namam starts from Ishanaha. So as we previously saw, there are 9 namas in this sloka. The first line has 6 and the second line, no, there are 10 namas. Ishanaha, Pranadaha, Pranaha, oh sorry, Jeshta Shrestha is one namam. So 9 namas. Okay, we'll look at the meanings now. The first one is Ishanaha, which actually means Ishaha means the king or the ruler. So Bhagavan is the ruler of all beings. And the way Shankaracharya explains it is Sarva Bhuta Niyantritvat. Somebody who Niyantranam Karoti iti Niyantritam. So he is saying somebody who rules or Niyantranam also means regulates. So there are some deeper meanings in this that we could just quickly take a look at. So when we say he is the ruler, in what sense is he ruling? Is he sitting somewhat like a king? Sorry, if you don't mind, everybody, can you please mute yourself? So there is a lot of background noise. Okay. So is he sitting somewhere on a throne and ruling us, or somewhere in the clouds, or somewhere in Vaikuntham or Kailasham? So what does it mean by ruling us? And a lot of our scriptures tell us that he is ruling from within. There is a vidya called Dahara Vidya in Upanishads, and it also comes in Narayana Suktam. He is in within us, and he is ruling, and he is also regulating. So we could call it the sixth sense, we could call it the consciousness, or we could call it the conscience, the Chaitanyam itself, that we are alive and awake because of his presence, and then he is guiding us through that. We can get a question when we think about this. If he is ruling us, why are some people able to do some kind of like inhumane activities? And for that, my Guruji used to say, everybody knows what is correct and what's wrong. That's something that we got it by birth. We don't really need to be taught that beating somebody is bad, or stealing something is bad. And he used to joke saying, if somebody was to go and steal in a house, even they know it is wrong, therefore they don't go in daylight, broad daylight, and just sneak into somebody's house and take it. They will they will do it in the night when nobody is watching. That's when they would like to do it. So this conscience is what helps guide, regulate, and rule us from within. And what is it ruling? It's the body, mind, and sense complex, what we call as the BMS. Through this, so in which case, if he is ruling, then why is not our mind in our control? Why is not our indriyas under control? And why do we get all sorts of diseases for the body? Isn't he the ruler? Isn't he supposed to take care of all of this? So while he rules, the individual elements have their own capacity to go and do activities. So through indriyas, we get a lot of jnanam. And we have seen in our Gita classes the chariot analogy, where the horses are considered like, are the representative of our 5 senses, and the reins are our mind, and the intellect is the charioteer, the Atman is the passenger, and the chariot is the body. If our horses are not controlled with our mind, or our indriyas are not controlled with our mind, or in other sense, in the chariot analogy, the horses are not controlled with the reins, and the charioteer is not intelligent enough to understand how to control, then the horses go in their own path. All 5 horses can go in their own directions, and the ride the passenger will get sitting in that chariot is going to be very bumpy. It's not a fun ride. So no matter what book or what scripture we study, it'll all come back to the same thing what Shankaracharya has given us as the Shatka Sampatti. The Shama Dama are the most important ones, which is Indriya Nigraham and Mano Nigraham. And what do we need to do is to listen to our conscience, because the ruler in us is trying to tell us how to, but our body and mind, or our senses, they have their own choices. So for example, if I want to wake up in the morning to do my sadhana, I have two choices when it's morning. Like, I'll have an alarm set up in the morning. I want to say, okay, I want to do this, this, and this. I want to wake up. I'm super excited about it. All of that is great planning and everything. My intellect is telling me something based on what it knows from the conscience. But in the morning, I have two choices: either listen to my intellect and stick to what I planned, or what my indriyas and mind will tell me, that I'm too tired. You know what? We'll do it tomorrow. I can procrastinate this and do it at a later time, and I'm going to get some more sleep. I'm just giving a simple example, but here's where, um, though Bhagwan is the ruler, we cannot say that he has to take care of everything, because as a Subhashitam says, there are two things: with one wheel things don't work. A chariot can't go forward. It has to have our effort and the prudence, or Bhagwan's benevolence are required as two wheels for our life journey to continue. Any thoughts, questions on that before we move to the next one? Because this is an important one. We are going into a lot of sadhanas. As it's somebody in our group was saying, it's not just the Sahasranamas, it's how we live. What our scriptures try to tell us is a lifestyle that is an elevated lifestyle that will take us from who we are, from a Jivatman, to reach the Paramatman. And that is the elevation that they're talking about. And you will see so many different analogies, so many vidyas, and so many scriptures. Everything tries to connect to the same portion. So it's important to understand these two concepts. It's not just, name of Bhagwan and what he looks or feels like. It's also what are our sadhanas to get ourselves closer to him. So we'll move to the next one, which is also a fantastic namam. Pranadaha is the nama. And this namam appears 3 times throughout Sahasranamam. And here Shankaraj, in this book that I'm reading it from, it says 321, 408, and 956. There are 4 times it appears, because this namam is the 66th namam that we are currently looking at. So there is a concept called as, repetition is not allowed in Shrutis. And in Vishnu Sahasranamam, we'll see a lot of repetition of namas, and the way it has been explained to us and why it has repetitions and it is still a good scripture to be studying is because each namam has different meanings in each of these locations. It's not going to be the exact same meaning. So prana daha. So two things, prana, everybody has some understanding of what prana is. Somebody who is actually giving. The dhatu is dadati. Somebody who bestows the vital airs to us. And in Taittiriya Upanishad, who then could live, who could breathe? Or because he takes away or cut the life in the form of death, or purifies or destroys the prana breaths. So he is the giver and taker of the prana. Here, a couple things we have to also think about is prana has multiple meanings. Current context in contemporary world, we think of prana as the life energy, and we say pranam poichu, pranam poindi. Like, there are so many ways of saying if somebody died, the prana has left that person. There is also the pranamaya kosham, which is all the 5 vital pranas, the prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana. And there are 5 sub pranas, the secondary pranas. So all of these, he is also the pranamaya kosha, is the another meaning that could be taken here. The next namam is pranaha, the individual self or the supreme self. In Kena Upanishad, it says he is the life of lives of the principle or the principal life, Mukhya Prana. Kena Upanishad is a phenomenal. The way it starts is amazing. The first three slokas will give you the full gist of everything that we need to learn from for a Brahma Vidya. So here, whoever is the Pranam himself, he is the Pranam. But when we talk about in the previous namam we were looking at, he is also the one that cuts the prana or causes the death. So does it mean that he literally sits there and cuts the prana or something like that? No. When the Atman leaves the body, the prana also leaves. And the prana merges with the Mahaprana that exists, the energy, the life energy that exists throughout the universe. It just becomes merged with everything else. And the same analogy, like the Shankaracharya gives an analogy for both Atman and Prana, which is the Ghatakasham, Patakasham is what he says, and in many other forms of the same thing. There is, and he gives that example as Akasha, could be taken as a prana too. If there is life energy or space in a ghatam, a pot, and he says there is no merger from okay, I'm here point A and Bhagwan he is here point B, so I have to travel from A to B if I have to think about a merger. Or when we say if somebody passed away and they're merging with Bhagwan, there is no prana moving from here like in our movies they show. It's more a symbolical representation that they show those, the prana jyoti going away from here to here and merging with Bhagwan, if you have seen any of the Puranic movies. But it is more about something like if there is a pot, and in the pot there is space, obviously. But if the pot is broken, is the space moving anywhere from A to B? It doesn't. It stays there, but at the same time, it's merged with everything else. The only thing that doesn't exist as a boundary is that pot. So our body functions as that pot. If the body doesn't exist, the prana is with the Mahaprana, that the whole life energy that exists around us. The next namam is Jeshta Sreshtaha, the eldest and the most excellent. Chandogya Upanishad says the prana is the eldest and the most excellent. And also Brihadaranyaka Samhita says he is the most excellent. It may mean the chief prana or Jeshta being the universal cause and Shreshta being the best. I think we talked about prana a little bit, so I'm going to just move on to the next namam. Prajapatihi, the Lord of beings. And there are many Prajapatis. So we will see in Lalita Sahasranamam. Prajapatihi, if you think about just splitting the Sanskritam, and there are two words in it, Praja and Prajaha Patihi. What it means is he is the bearer or the somebody who takes care of the Prajaha or people. And there are multitude of Prajapatis, but he is the eldest and the excellent, most excellent of these Prajapatis. That's also how it can be combined, the Jeshta Shrestha Prajapatihi or Pranada Prana Jeshta Shrestha. So it could be combined with both of these namas. Hiranyagarbha, Brahma, the creator, is called Hiranyagarbha as the dweller in the golden egg, and Vishnu is his self. But Shruti says, Taittiriya Samhita says, at the beginning, Hiranyagarbha existed. So we talked about the God's particle, the little dot, the small little particle that expanded into everything. That is the scientific, more contemporary connotation of what the Hiranyagarbha is. It's considered as golden egg, is what they called it. And it is bubbling with energy, and it's like a fireball of a very microscopic small particle. And Hiranyagarbha also has the second meaning, which is the sun god. So the sun is another representation of that same kind of a ball philosophy, right? Like a fireball. bubbling with a lot of energy within. So Hiranyagarbha is also taken as that, and in some of the Brahma Vidyas, they also talk about see Bhagavan as somebody who is at the core of the Hiranyagarbha. Whether you take Hiranyagarbha as the original God's particle that created it, or you see a more tangible form of the same Hiranyagarbha in the sun god form. So he is somebody who is at the core of this creation and has created the entire universe through that golden egg. And actually, when Shankaracharya wrote Bhashyam for Bhagavad Gita, there is a beautiful sloka that he talks about. I would quickly like to pull it up. I'm tempted to do that, but we'll go through a few more namas and then I'll pull that sloka up and I'll recite that. Bhugarbha, having the universe in himself. Again, here there are two different namas. Bhugarbha could be taken based on how you take the samasa. You could take it as somebody's garbha is the bhu, or bhu means earth, or somebody who is in the earth or at the core of earth is who Bhagwan is in the core of earth. So it could be taken as both sides, but the meaning given here is having the universe in himself. Bhu he is not taken not just as earth, but everything that is in the universe. Then Madhavaha, the husband of Lakshmi, or who is cognized through Madhu Vidya, according to Chandogya Upanishad. I actually noticed that many a times we do the Gita and Vishnu Sahasranamam and Lalita Sahasranamam. In the same week, there are so many connections that happen that it is very, very related. Just yesterday, we were talking about Madhusudanaha in Gita. Now we are talking about Madhavaha. We talked about Madhu. And just, in the Lalita Sahasranamam class, I wanted to talk about Brahma Vidyas today. So it's quite, I would think like it's coincidence, but it happens so many times. I feel it's way beyond coincidence. So we will talk about what Madhu Vidya is in Lalita Sahasranamam class. But he is cognized through Madhu Vidya in Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Or Vyasa in Mahabharata says, O Bharata, know Madhava by silence, Mauna, by meditation, Dhyana, or by yoga. The last namam of the sloka, Madhusudanaha, the slayer of Madhu. In Mahabharata, the Mahabharata says, the supreme Purusha Vishnu slew also at the request of Brahma the great Asura Madhu, born from Vishnu's ear. Hence, the sages, the Devas, and Asuras and men call Vishnu by the appellation of Madhusudana. This is This is from the Vishnu Puranam. The killing of Madhu and why how Madhu comes out of Bhagwan's ear after the universe was created. How Madhu Kaitaba are two forms of Asura forms or the evil forms that emerge from Bhagwan's ears, and he is the killer of Madhu and Kaitaba. The other meaning is Madhu is honey, and honey is related to all the things that we get attracted to, all the materialistic attractions that we have. And he is the Sudana, basically the killer of those attractions, which means he is the one who can give us Vairagyam on the materialistic pursuits and move us towards more of the supreme and spiritual pursuit. Any thoughts before we move to the next sloka?
So Guruji, is this recording, no?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll look at the next slokam now. So the next sloka has Ishvaraha, Vikrami Dhanvi, Medhavi, Vikramaha Kramaha. So there are 5 namas in the first line. Ishvaraha, Vikrami Dhanvi. Oh, sorry, one second. Vikrami Dhanvi, I think will be taken as 2 different ones. Just want to make, yeah, correct. So Ishvaraha, Vikrami Dhanvi, Medhavi, Vikramaha, Kramaha. There are 6. And in the second line, Anuttamaha, Duradharshaha, Kritagnaha, Kritihi, Atmavan. A few fantastic namas that are coming for us. All are fantastic, but I have my favorites. So did everybody catch the split of the namas here?
No, in the end, I just wanted to know, Guruji, that is Ishana. No, I mean, just that first sentence. Can you do the Ishvaro?
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I'll do both sentences. Ishvaraha, Vikrami, Dhanvi, Medhavi, Vikramaha, Kramaha, Anuttamaha, Duradarshah, Kritagnaha, Kritihi, Atmavan.
Thank you, Guruji.
So totally 10, Guruji.
Sorry, what was that, Anita ji?
Is it totally 10 namas?
11 namas. Yeah. Yeah. The first line has 6 and the second line has 5.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll look at the nuances of chanting this sloka. Let's most importantly see if there are any Mahapranas, because that's usually where we mess things up while chanting. So the third namam is Dhanvi, not Dhanvi. So it's a Mahaprana Dha. Medhavi is also again the dha is Mahaprana, and when you chant the dha, you would actually feel a little vibration in your heart, and that's how it should come out as. And that vibration clears up our Anahata Chakram to be able to get to the Dahara Vidya, where we are seeing Bhagwan in our heart. So when there are Mahapranas, it's important to pronounce them as Mahaprana. So you have to observe, like, individual, just take each letter and pronounce it separately when you are, like, just cooking or walking. The dha, do you feel that in your heart? And that's how we do, like, we elevate ourselves. So medhavi, vikramaha, kramaha, because there is a visarga, we'll have to pause there and think about how it will work. Vikramah, kramaha, I think how Swaro Vikrami Dhanvi Medhavi Vikramakramaha. I think, yeah, it's a lopa. So there won't be any addition, anything there. So the visarga is kind of ignored. So it becomes Vikramakramaha. The visarga is not pronounced. Anuttamo Duradharsha. First the is a regular the second the is a Mahaprana dha. Shaha, the third sibilant sha with a visarga. Now let's see how this visarga works. Yeah, yeah. So this would also be ignored. So anuttamodur adarshak kritagnyah kritiratmavan. So this one will be ignored. The next kritagnyah will be an extra ha kind of a sound. Kritiratmavan. And there is a halant, basically half a character of half a syllable n, in order to make it 16 syllables. I'm pretty sure we talked about chandas for this when we were doing the Purvanyasam. This is in Anushtup Chandas. Each line should have 16 syllables, and that's actually Chandas rules. So the second line would become 15 and a half syllables if we just left it off at Atmavan, but we cannot say Atmavana or anything like that. Therefore, the N will be extend a little bit more in order to cover for the missing half a syllable. So we are compliant with the 16 syllable rule for Anushtup Chandas. So I'll chant once, and then whoever would like to chant with me, will do it 2 times with you. ईश्वरो विक्रमी धन्वी मेधावी विक्रमक्रमः अनुत्तमो दुराधर्ष कृतज्ञः कृतिरात्मवान्. I'll do it one more time, just in case you want to catch the visargas, how they are pronounced, especially the ones. Duradarsha is ignore the visarga. Kritagnyah will be an H kind of sound. ईश्वरो विक्रमी धन्वी मेधावी विक्रमक्रमः अनुत्तमो दुराधर्ष कृतज्ञः कृतिरात्मवान्. I hope everybody got that. So who would like to chant with me?
I'd like to.
Awesome, Taraji. We'll do half lines. Let me see if I can actually get it in this same rhythm for half a line. Ishvaro vikrami dhanvi
Ishvaro vikrami dhanvi
medhavi vikramakramaha
medhavi vikramakramaha
anuttamo duradharsha.
anuttamo dhuradharsha
The first da is a regular alpa prana da. Anuttamo duradharsha
anuttamo dhuradharsha
कृतज्ञः कृतिरात्मवान्.
कृतज्ञः कृतिरात्मवान्
We'll do it one more time, please. ईश्वरो विक्रमी धन्वी
ईश्वरो विक्रमी धन्वी
मेधावी विक्रमक्रमः
मेधावी विक्रमक्रमः
अनुत्तमो दुराधर्ष
अनुत्तमो धुराधर्ष
कृतज्ञः कृतिरात्मवान्.
कृतज्ञः कृतिरात्मवान्.
Awesome, thank you. So shall we go into the meanings for this one, or do we want to do one more sloka just for chanting and then we'll come back to meanings for 2 or 3 slokas? I think that's what we decided. So we'll do one more sloka. Suresha, and this is the sha, not sha. And in the chanting classes, we've been talking about sibilants very carefully. So this is not sa like in Saraswati. This is not sha like in Shanmuka. This is the sha like in Shiva. Suresha Sharanam. Sharma is the third namam. Fourth one is Vishwaretaha. Prajabhavaha is the next namam. Then the next line, Ahaha, the first one. Samvatsaraha, Vyalaha, Pratyayaha, Sarvadarshanaha is one single nama. So here we have 10 namas. So Sureshaha, Sharanam, Sharma, Vishwaretaha, Prajabhavaha, Ahaha, Samvatsaraha, Vyalaha, Pratyayaha, Sarvadarshanaha. Now let's look at the nuances for chanting. Suresha is followed by Sharanam because there are two sibilants. What happens here is an extra emphasis of the same sha that will appear in between the two. So as such is confusing with sibilants and tongue twisters like the sea soul, she shells, whatever that thing. So sha with an extra s. So there are three s's, one followed by the other. So the way it'll sound is Suresha Sharanam. So there is an extra sha with a sha kind of combination. Sharma. Vishwa is also the same sha, not sha. Vishwareta Prajabhavaha. The Vishwareta visarga followed by a pa will become a f kind of an f kind of a sound. So it becomes Vishwareta Prajabhavaha. The visarga at the end, as we have been doing for all the other slokas, will have to be pronounced really well. Then ahas samvatsaro, the sa will have an extra sa again. This is the Saraswati sa. Ahas samvatsaro vyalaha, the la, not the la. Pratyayas sarvadharshanaha. So here visarga followed by pa for a pratyaya will again become an F kind of a sound. And pratyaya sarvadharshanaha, visarga followed by sa will have an extra emphasis, sa added to it. So I'll chant once. Suresharanam Sharma Vishwaretaः Prajabhavah Ahas Samvatsaro Vyalaf Pratyayah Sarvadarshanaha. Suresharanam Sharma Vishwaretaः Prajabhavah Ahas Samvatsaro Vyalaf Pratyayah Sarvadarshanaha. I hope that's clear. Any questions before we chant it? Who would like to chant with me?
Guruji,
Acharya.
Go ahead, Jayashree ji.
Before that, Guruji, I
Question.
just wanted to know, I mean, before you'll do that, so I just want to know, so there are two Fs, no? Vyalef, Pratyaf, like that.
Correct. Vishwaretah Prajabhavaha Vyalaf Pratyayah. Yeah. Jayashree ji, you had a question?
Yes. First Nama, Guruji, to Sureshah, that's how it was, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So does it become Sureshas, or Sureshash? How does
Yeah.
it become?
Sureshas Saranam.
Okay.
Sarma.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Who would like to chant with me?
I can.
Awesome. Who is this? Anita ji.
Yes.
Sureshas Saranam Sharma.
Suresha Sharanam Sharma
Vishwaretah Prajabhavaha.
Vishwaretha Prajabhavaha
So the taha followed by pa, there should be that F kind of a sound. Vishwaretah Prajabhavaha.
Vishwareta Prajabhavaha
You got it. And the bha is a mahaprana for the next round. Ahas samvatsaro vyala.
Ahasamvacharo Vyala
And the reason why we just stopped at vyala is because when we combine it as a full sloka, it becomes an F, and it's very difficult to say vyalaf. Sounds odd. Pratyayas sarvadarshanaha.
Pratyaya Sarvadarshanaha
Awesome. We'll do it one more time. Suresas saranam sharma.
Suresha Sharanam Sharma
Vishwaretah prajabhavaha.
Vishwareta Prajabhavaha
Ahas samvatsaro vyala.
Ahasamvacharo Vyala
Pratyayas sarvadarshanaha.
Pratyaya Sarvadarshanaha.
And because we stopped the second line in an odd place, we'll do the full line once, even for the first one and the second one as well. Suresas saranam sharma vishwaretah prajabhavaha.
Suresha Sharanam Sharma Viswareta Prajabhavaha
Ahas samvatsaro vyalaf pratyayas sarvadarshanaha.
Ahasamvacharo Vyala Pratyaya Sarvadarshanaha.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go into the meanings. So, yeah, so we were supposed to start from Ishvara. I was thinking, like, did we skip a sloka or something? Okay, I forgot. Okay, Ishvaraha, that's the one we were going to start at. Ishvaraha is the all potent, all auspicious, the ultimate of everything. He is the Ishvaraha. The gloss is the possessor of the 8 siddhis, the power of becoming as small as an atom, animan, etc. So 8 siddhis are also in Sri Vidya. And there are the Siddhi Devatas that we pray to, and the Siddhi Devatas are all on the placed on the Sri Chakram that you are seeing behind me. So 8 Siddhis that are counted are Anima Siddhi, Laghima Siddhi, Mahima Siddhi, Garima Siddhi, Ishitva Siddhi, Vashitva Siddhi, Prakamya Siddhi, and Bhukti Siddhi. And there are the Icha Siddhi, Jnana Siddhi, Icha Jnana Kriya Siddhis. There are other 3, but those are not the Ashta Siddhis that we talk about. Those are the powers of, or the Shaktis of Ishvara. He has the Icha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti. But here he is the possessor of all the 8 Siddhis, through which he is able to control the universe and regulate the universe. The next namam is Vikrami, the valiant. Here it is just very Shankaracharya describes just as Vikramaha Shauryam Tadyogat Vikrami. Somebody who has the Shauryam as his yoga himself is the Vikrami, but in English they've just translated it as the valiant. The valiant, sorry. Dhanvi, the bowman. In Bhagavad Gita, where in the sloka, like the Vibhuti Yogam, he says, I am Sri Rama among the wielders of the bow. So, Dhanvi. And in Lalita Sahasranamam, we have seen the importance of the Dhanush and how Bhagavan helps us control our mind through Dhanush. It's the same meaning here as well. Medhavi, the of powerful memory, able to grasp several ideas on different subjects at a time. So the way, let's see how Shankaracharya describes it, because this to me seems like a very basic definition. Medha bahu granthadarana samarthyam sa yasyasti sa medhavi. Asyaya medhastrajo vini. Iti vini pratyaya. Okay. I will come back to you about this particular namam. I want to, there are a lot more deeper meanings for this one that Shankaracharya has provided. So I'm just going to make a note. I will bring it to our next class. Medhavi. And this namam is connected to how Bhagavan is the fruit, he gives us the fruits of karma, and how he memorizes, and the memory that passes on from one janma to the other janma. How you can see a child of 2 years old is able to, like, recite so many ragas, and we see all of those. In Brahma Sutras, there is a lot more description of the memory of Bhagavan. So I'll dig up Brahma Sutras and I'll bring some more ideas for next week. Vikramaha, of great strides. As he traversed the universe, or because he rides Krama, the bird Garuda. So he rides Garuda, that's why he is Vikrama, or he traversed the universe, that's why he is Vikramaha. The next namam is Kramaha, the walker. Manusmriti says Vishnu with regard to motion, or he is the cause of movement. He is, and the other meaning that Kramaha has is also somebody who disciplines us, or somebody who us in that doesn't mean us as an individual. The whole universe is disciplined and regulated by Bhagavan. So there was some context about this for the centrifugal and centripetal forces, how the planets all have gravity and they are in place. They're not bombarding each other. There are those things that happen, and all the science and all the physics that goes behind the universe itself. He is doing the kramam of all of those things. So that's the other meaning that I have heard. Then Anuttamaha, the unexcelled. In Taittiriya Aranyakam, there is nothing above or below or equal to him. In Bhagavad Gita, Vishwarupa Darshana Yogam, for your equal exists not, whence another superior to you, is a question that Arjuna asks when he sees Bhagavan in his Vishwarupa Darshanam. So the unexcelled is Anuttamaha. The next one is Duradharshaha, the unassailable by the demons, daityas, and others. So he is somebody who cannot. So we have heard about in the Puranas all the daityas trying to kill Bhagavan, or the Vishnu Dvesham because they know he is very smart and will oversmart them, and they are scared of him all the time. So those daityas cannot kill him. The other one, the more deeper meaning that we have to take is the universe cannot just not exist, and we have talked about this a few times. The universe always expands and contracts and can stay in multiple different facets of changes can happen, but the universe will not stop existing. So he is always there. Nothing can he cannot be assassinated or assained, or whatever the word is there. Okay, the next one is Kritagnaha, knower of actions done. Good or bad actions of men, or gracious as he confers emancipation on those that offer to him in worship, even such common objects as leaf or a flower. And in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan actually says patram pushpam phalam toyam, whether it is a leaf or a fruit or water, yeah, or a flower, whatever you offer to me, that's great offering. But he is the knower of actions done. And even this one we have discussed a few times on what we can offer. It's important to understand that offering doesn't have to be specially cooked food only can be offered, or anything like that. Every action that we are doing should be considered an offering. So I've previously mentioned that. Sorry. I've mentioned that at the end of the day, offer all your actions, no matter what you have done. It could be good or bad, or you were not satisfied with what you have done. It's the best you could do, or may not be the best, because we can be best 365, 24/7. But whatever you have done, know that it has lot more. You have put in your effort, but it is surrounded by so many other factors that are not necessarily all in our control. But whatever was done to the best of your knowledge would have been the best course of action. Just offer it to the God at the end of the day. So all benefits you get out of it, or the punya papa phalas, are all given up to God, and He will take care of it. And previously, I've also mentioned the offering could be even our exhalation, inhalation. I've also shared mantras for that, very short one, like, very short phrase mantras that you can do. Just 2 breaths, one exhalation, one inhalation, could be offered to Bhagavan. Everything is an offering that we are giving back to the universe. And like, we have all learned in school, when we, like, go to any science museums or things like that, we do that cycling, and the electricity from the dynamo passes and just becomes bulbs. And it, if you ride it very fast, you will glow a lot more bulbs than somebody else who is just riding it slow. So it's about how much energy are you giving out, and how many bulbs are you lighting outside of your own, containing your own energy within yourself and using it for your own purpose or for a very small family. How much more are you able to provide back to the universe? And it doesn't mean we have to go and give up all our wealth or energy or time for everybody. It's more about your bhavana. So when we do Naivedyam, it's not just, to Bhagwan. Bhagwan is utilizing that energy to the larger good of the universe. I think I might have mentioned in this class, or maybe in a different set of classes that I take, in the mantras that we do after Upanayanam. People do the Parisheshanam, right? Where they offer the food and they eat. At the end of that, there is the reverse process that we do. And end of it, there is a particular sloka that starts with Raurave Apunya Nilaye. What it means is, a few drops of water is left on the leaf that we are eating from. And the sloka says, for those people who are living in areas where there is no, sorry, that's my connotation. The sloka itself says, in those asvargya lokas, where the apunya lokas, where the hell kind of places, where people, the papa karmis, are being tortured by Yama's soldiers. They are going through a lot of trouble, and it's quite hard, and they are very thirsty because they've been tortured for all the bad karmas that they have done. These drops, may these go and give them some shamanam, some relief from what they're doing. So at least, some water for them. And we think, like, we can imagine it to be a hell, but none of us have seen it, thankfully. But once I was flying from on a vacation that we went to Africa. We were flying back to India at that time, and I was flying somewhere over, I think, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, and some other places. We're just coming in that route. And over, I think, 3,000 kilometers or so. Maybe that's my imagination. Like, I didn't count it. Don't quote me on that. a very like a long period of time. We were flying over this landscape that I will never forget in my life. It's very rocky, like a black stone rock. There are no trees. There's obviously, and we were not flying too high, so I could actually see it very clearly. Or maybe it is so huge that I could see it quite clearly. And I did see some small little huts and places there. And I was thinking, no plants. I don't know where the water is coming from, and people are surviving, and most likely they're celebrating their weddings and their, childbirths and like all the namakaranams and whatever they do. All those may be happening, and they might be just celebrating, and they might be happy and laughing. But I felt, we waste water so much, but some of these people probably have to walk like kilometers to even get a very small bottle of water. So think about all of those beings when you're doing your activities. And just that bhavana itself, that you're offering something that to people who are in need, that itself is a great thing that Bhagavan expects. There is one particular sloka I'll bring next week as well. It'll say whatever is said in the Shrutis, all of that is in half Ardha Shlokena. I will tell you what all of that. The gist of the Shrutis is Paropakarartham, and there is an extension to it. I don't recollect the exact sloka, but this body has been given to us as an opportunity to provide to others that may not have the same kind of opportunities that are given to us. So remember that and offer it everything to Bhagavan so he can distribute it. Or if you are able to distribute through your own means, please do so. Okay, if there are any questions, we can just take 2-3 minutes to answer those, and we'll conclude it here for the day.
Shriji, is it Aropakarartham idam shariram? Is that the saying you were saying?
Yeah, that's
So we have to use it. We have to use the body for other people's
other people, correct.
welfare, right?
The Subhashitam that you're talking about is the Paropakarardham Vahanti Nadyaha Paropakarardham Duhanti Gavaha Paropakarardham Phalanti Vrikshaha Paropakarardham Idam Shariram. So it says for other people is why rivers flow, for other people are why the fruits are being borne by the trees, and for other people is why the cows are giving milk, in the same concept, because everything else is doing for other people, every other thing that exists out there, except human beings who want to just hoard everything for our own good and our own family. For the next 7 generations, I want 100 crores of rupees or 100,000 crores of rupees. I don't know what they do with that kind of money, but we are the only ones who think of just me and my own. That's the Subhashitam. There is one more sloka. It says, Ajaya Mahoday may know that. It says within Ardha Shlokam, I'll tell you what is the gist of Shruti, and there is a Paropakarardham sentence in that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll conclude.
And Guruji, that these things which we recited now, so those stanzas will be put in the Google Drive. Huh?
Yes, yeah. I will record them and I'll put it there.
Okay. No, I mean, not only recording, but I'm saying the word. Usually you give that, this one, that the breakdown in the English, you'll write it.
Yeah, I will do that.
Thank you, Guruji.
Okay, we'll conclude it here with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Sarvam Srimannarayana Charanaravindarpanamastu. Thank you so much. If you're joining the Lalita Sahasranamam, we'll catch up in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.